What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone, and this time we are chatting with Juliet Ruin. Thank you so much for both of you for being here. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I really enjoyed the last full-length album, Old Stardust, Love and Chaos. But we thank you to wait out the rest of this godforsaken pandemic. We're getting a new EP, Dark Water, coming out. Was this meant to kind of be like maybe a good representation of what the follow-up to Old Stardust will sound like, or is this almost kind of like a one-off thing for Juliet Ruin?
Yeah, sure. I would say that it's a pretty good following into what the sound's going to be like. On Old Stardust, Love and Chaos, there were a couple songs that kind of flirted with this direction, and I think this is really us finding the sound that we want to make with the Dark Water EP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Was there kind of like a preconceived idea what you wanted this to sound like, or was there kind of like a lot of maybe trial and error that was involved with the making of this EP?
Well, we definitely did face a lot of our trial and error through previous writing endeavors and things that we've released. And definitely during Old Stardust, we did the whole down tuning thing, and I started experimenting a little more with harsh vocals, and we decided to definitely run with that vibe and that feeling because we all kind of felt really at home in that sound when we started experimenting more.
Yeah, well, I thought that and some artists are kind of hesitant on being labeled as this sort of category, but I've always thought that Juliet Ruin was a fairly experimental band. Like I saw, really, really heavy elements on here, that, you would see in a band I don't know, maybe Ginger or Meshuggah or something like that. But then I saw elements that I would hear in more of a for lack of better words, more of a mainstream rock band that I would hear in a 3 Days Grace or a Shinedown. So trying new things almost has to be just part of the songwriting process for Juliet Ruin, right?
Totally.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so with the experimentation, because, if you have a sound that defines you, people categorize you as being formulaic and, playing it safe. But if you experiment too much, people could sometimes criticize it for being directionless. How do you, is there a certain thing that every Juliet Ruin song or every Juliet Ruin album has to have in order to make it Juliet Ruin?
That's a good question.
I think we're pretty hard on making sure that songs have a good groove to them. You got to be able to bounce a little bit with it. I think if you lose a really good rhythm, it's not us anymore.
Yeah, I think that's probably the main thing is we all kind of give it the dance around test. If we can kind of groove to it, it's very us. And also with this, at the risk of sounding super corny, if we're able to fully be ourselves and have fun, I think that's the ultimate underlying element of what makes us have our Juliet Ruin sound, or whatever makes a Juliet Ruin song is basically we're all adding our own creative elements and trying not to have it sound a certain way, I guess, for lack of better ways to say it. We just kind of let it flow.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the criticism of a Juliet Ruin song sounding too much like a Juliet Ruin song.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, was this something that you've always wanted to do? Because, when you, compare, your catalog, to, the Juliet Ruin EP to, Old Stardust to, the Fake Stigmata album, it almost seems there was a lot of experimentation involved. Has there ever been a point where, maybe you feel like you found your identity, or are you still trying to figure that out in a way?
I think with the Dark Water EP is pretty close to where we wanted it. The direction it started to form with the few songs off of the LP, and then now with this way, it's just everyone's more stoked on the material. It's just flowing out a lot easier, and I think this is kind of our home for at least now until we decide to move on to something weird or different.
Yeah, I was going to add that too, is basically the whole band is super stoked on this current sound, and we've had a really good time agreeing as a group, the five of us before, but everyone's so happy right now, so we're definitely going to try to write in this vein a little more.
Oh, awesome. So we can maybe be expecting the full-length album. Can we be expecting a full-length album fairly soon, or am I asking that even way too soon?
We might come out with doing the single by single or EP thing, but I definitely think after this this whole COVID thing that there will be rapid fire music coming from us one way or another.
Yeah, some of the guys wanted to take the material we recorded for Dark Water and fold it into a full LP, but we just weren't patient enough for that, the
Yeah,
rest of us. So
that's pretty
we
much
wanted
it.
to get some material out during this weirdo downtime, and then maybe an LP's on the horizon. Who knows?
Maybe though, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say.
Yeah, well, I was hoping that when you released Old Stardust, that you would come to the States. We would love to have you here, and to be able to hear this material live. But like, did maybe like inspiration comes from all different sources? Did maybe this time of isolation and this time of uncertainty maybe help influence what we heard on Dark Water?
Definitely in a lot of the lyrics, because I wasn't quite. We were finished writing a lot of the material right at the beginning of the whole COVID thing starting, but I was not done the lyrics. So it gave me a lot of opportunity to sit with a lot of different emotions and bring them to the table. But at the same time, I also was suffering writer's block, because I was like, the world is melting. Like, what do I write about? This is crazy. But I found a good balance though. It was good to be able to put a lot of those emotions into the lyrics for Dark Water. Definitely.
Yeah, and musically it was mostly done by the time the pandemic come down. We were actually supposed to go start tracking it like late March.
Yeah.
But then we nixed that idea. And then started it 5 months later, the tracking. So I mean, the intervening period really just let me tighten up the music quite a bit. But no real major changes from the pandemic itself. Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where maybe lyrics or maybe a concept even could maybe help influence the direction of the music ever? Or has there always needed to be music before any vocals or any lyrics really come into play?
Sometimes, for the most part, the guys will kind of make the skeleton of the song, and I'll add the vocals and stuff. But for the song Dark Water itself, our other guitar player Wesley was like, I wrote this riff and it sounds like Dark Water to me, so he's like, if you could go with that would be cool. And then I wrote all these lyrics. I'm like, here, Wes, the song's called Dark Water, like you said. He's like, oh, I forgot I said that. That's so dope, man. So sometimes the guys will come to me with ideas, or I'll be like, how does this make everyone feel? Like, does anyone have any input for me? But yeah, most of the time though, it's music and then vocals.
Yeah. Nothing can be more heartbreaking than having the best lyrics ever, but then they're always like one syllable over or under the arrangement of every song.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And being that you have such a versatile vocal range, does sometimes like the instrumentation like have to adjust? If you're doing more melodic vocals, the instrumentation kind of has to fit that in a way versus like very aggressive vocals? Or is it...
They kind of like tweak it with what I'm doing. Like sometimes if I do something at jam and I'll show them the vocals, they'll just kind of adjust something, or
Yeah, and also even for the most part, the versatility of her voice has made it so we don't really have to adjust much. She's put vocals in spots where I've been like, I didn't think anything would work there, but it sounds great. Like, so the versatility really helps us just kind of write whatever noise we feel like coming out with, and then she's really good at just putting something in there where it doesn't seem like anything should fit, but then it just sounds like a really good line, like it belongs there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks.
Do you and being, because like I got not only do I hear different sounds in Juliet Ruin's music, but I do get like different vibes from it. Like I feel like there's a song for like every type of situation in a way. Like for I've always said that the best way to describe Juliet Ruin is a band that's there for the darkest times and there for the best times, and the tale of two cities band.
Yeah.
But like going from a song like on the last album, like going from a song like Spite to a song like Seasons, a song like Fight to Win, to like a song like Stay Gold, and if that was an Outsiders reference, excellent work. But like, is it fair to say that every song is almost like representative of an emotion that you are all particularly feeling at that time?
I would say to a certain extent, definitely, especially because in my process, I'm always asking the guys like, hey, this is the vibe I'm going with. Is this something that you guys can relate to? Do you have any input, blah, blah, blah. But I've always through the writing, worn my heart on my sleeve and wanted to kind of like make a relatable emotion. And that's why I like to hide a lot of the feelings I'm feeling in metaphors, because then that way people can just take their own experience and just be like, damn, I'm feeling that too. So it's a really cool way to connect. I actually really love that part of it.
Mm-hmm. And every band hates this question, but I never ask it, but I really, really am curious. So I've heard of Juliet Ruin right when I started working with John Asher, huge shout out to him. And like, Like I really liked the name because I feel like that could apply to anything. Like I could see this, like I thought Juliet Ruin could be the name of even like a pop star in a way. Like it has such that open interpretation element behind it. I really want to know what the meaning of that name was. Like, how did you come up with that? Was the idea to maybe not be pigeonholed in a category? Is Juliet Ruin maybe like a character to go along with your music? I really want to know where that name Juliet Ruin came from.
That's awesome. So the name Juliet Ruin initially kind of started as a stage alter ego for me. And when we first formed the band, we had originally formed the band out of our old band, Fiction of Fate, and we kind of wanted to focus a little bit more on me as the front woman, not make it completely about me, but just kind of push it out a little bit more. And I was like, oh, I would love to make my stage name like my middle name with Ruin and make it Juliet Ruin because Juliet's my middle name. And our friend Matt, who was the drummer at the time, was like, that's the band name. Screw you. That's not your stage name. It's the band name. So deal with it. And I'm like, okay, well, I love it. So
and it worked good because we had been in a mire of like days of hundreds of band name suggestions that no one really got on with. And that one just came out of the blue and it works.
We had
really
horrible ideas. Yeah. So it was really good.
I feel like naming the band is the hardest step for any band in the world. Like,
yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. Let alone naming 10 songs for an album.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yes. Especially when we go from remembering the real name versus the tentative name we've been calling it for so long. Like Simple Wars used to be called Banana Chop, and we all had such a hard time calling it Simple Wars.
Oh, I'm so gonna write an article on you guys and just completely say that that's the name of the song just to mess with the net.
That would make me happy. I fought to keep it. So
maybe that could be your side project.
Definitely.
We are the Banana Chops. Juliet Ruin and the Banana Chops.
I love it.
Yeah. Just a suggestion in the future. But like that's why I really liked the name of the band, because like it reminded me of when I first heard the Smiths, because obviously apples and oranges in terms of sound, but like the Smiths is one of the most depressing bands ever, but you can't categorize that. Like, is it goth, is it rock, is it metal, is it whatever? And I really think that Juliet Ruin has that same sort of open to interpretational meaning behind it. So excellent work on a phenomenal band name.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I never really ask what the origins of a band name is, but I just had to this time. So
I'm glad. That's cool.
Now, when it comes for the inspiration for writing, because, isolation is always a great fuel for creativity, but a band is a collaborative effort. For both of you, do you find it maybe easier to come up with either lyrical ideas or riff ideas or instrumental ideas when you are in the company of each other? Or do you sometimes maybe find it easier to come up with ideas when you're more like, kind of in your own elements in a way?
For vocals, for me, I find the main inspiration comes a lot when we're all together. But then when it comes to like finding the flow and writing the lyrics, I'm like alone by myself with earmuffs on, just like, leave me alone. But definitely for like melody and flow and even just concept, I definitely love to sit in the middle of the jam room floor while everybody's kind of working around me. What about her?
Well, I mean, I probably wouldn't have known the answer to this question a year ago, but now having been doing music for 10 years and having never been isolated from my writing group for this long, I've found out that I like having guys to bounce stuff off of because I've been in a horrible writer's block this whole time. Yeah. I'm glad I had the EP to work on during this thing, but I haven't been able to come up with much since.
Yeah. And I'd imagine, too, inspirations sometimes. I mean, you mentioned the artist block, and as an artist myself, that's the worst thing in the world. But, like, do you find that inspiration or ideas sometimes strike when you least expect it in a way? Or do you kind of maybe, like, look for it? Like, maybe is there, like, research involved? Or maybe do you, like, look at other artistic mediums to find ideas?
I think with inspiration, for lyrics, a lot of stuff will hit me out of the blue. My note section in my phone is completely nonsensical, but there's lots of like starter poems and starter lyrics and things like that. But once, like, even just the same as how I write with the band, it's like once I have that inspiration, I'll kind of like go full research mode and try to figure out as much as I can to like make it as relatable as possible or to find cool symbolism. So Yeah, how about you?
I would say research mode, it definitely is one way I help find inspiration, just learning a bunch of different covers and seeing how other bands and other artists do things. It does help inspire me to figure out my own thing as well. But also sometimes it comes out of nowhere, like I'll run right from the shower to the jam room and play a riff because I thought of it while I was in the shower kind of thing.
It's a good spot to think of stuff.
What is it about the shower? Like, I'm not even kidding. So I work in pro audio and like studio equipment as a day job, and I'm really thinking about inventing a studio setup that's waterproof, so it could fit into artists' showers.
It's a good idea. I swear that it's just like when you just allow your brain to just stop for a little bit, it opens it up and your brain's just like, oh, creativity. Like I saw online somebody said, it was on Twitter or something, someone said that their friend says, I'm going to go shower on it instead of saying I'm going to go sleep on it because the ideas will just come flowing. And I totally agree with that. Like, yeah.
Who knows why it works, but it works.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We need a recording studio in the bathroom.
Yeah, to all pro audio companies listening to this, make the waterproof compressor and like a waterproof computer. Like, just make studio showers, like a studio shower. Or, you know what? If you really are in the studio one day and you're going through the worst writer's block, pull the fire alarm and have the water come down, and maybe that would help out with it. I don't know how the producer would feel, but you got to do what you got to do.
I love that.
And do you kind of like to leave the music open to interpretation, or is the goal for Juliet Ruin to maybe inform the listener on a subject matter or a story, or maybe kind of engage the listeners into seeing things from both of your point of views?
For the most part, I really do like to leave things to interpretation. But there have been times where, like even within a song where I'm like being really really on purpose using these metaphors and like kind of hiding my meaning, there will be moments where I'll just like put it bluntly out there. But it's very rare though. I really do like to kind of make it a little bit vague so that more people can relate. Yeah. If that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you can approach things from both a literal and metaphorical standpoint in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like to try to do that at least.
Yeah. You ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview? I want you both to answer this.
Yes.
Sure.
All right. How do you know when a song is done?
When Diego says it is.
Diego is our favorite recording engineer.
Yeah, for sure. I would say for me, absolutely. Diego says so. What about you?
I think it isn't done until it's done in the studio. It's definitely true that way. We've had a lot of really great in the moment, like big switch ups for songs that just kind of weren't there before, but in the moment we're like, what if we did this?
Yeah.
While we're busy getting the tracking down, and that's some of our best stuff has just come right out of that.
Like Fight to Win
space.
is a good example for that one. Our song Fight to Win, I had some different verses. I got in the booth and Diego's like, what if you did spoken word or rapped? He's like, I kind of hate your verses. Let's do something else. And we sat there and wrote those in I think 10, 15 minutes. Like,
yeah, for those verses in Fight to Win, it was from inspiration to change them to track them was like an hour and a half total.
We were all shaking.
Like, we were all just on the raw edge of creation, and it was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, so I'd say Diego's kind of our sixth band member lately, especially because we've gone to him for the last couple endeavors. So yeah, that's probably my answer. I'd say.
Yeah, well,
he's the boss.
The producer's the fifth Beatle, the sixth Beatle. If you're in Slipknot, the 12th Beatle, or however many members they have. So like, it definitely helps. But oh my God, that. I'm not in a band, but I can imagine that you could be dead set on an idea, this works, but then you get an idea that just defies everything else, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, that happened in that song on the LP, and there's a couple instances of that on the EP as well. And it was easier to do that with the EP because most of our old material, you write it, you play it around at local shows a bunch, whatever, then you develop an idea of what it means and then you record it. But for us, it was like it was half written in the studio, so it really felt a lot more raw, and we really got a lot more leeway to just kind of fix things because we're like, this isn't the song, it's a song. The song is what we make it, so we can mess around a little more.
Like for the last EP, for this EP, for Dark Water, I wrote all the vocal bridges in the studio. Like I brought ideas, but I hadn't written anything permanent, so I was writing them with Diego, which was cool.
Yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah.
That's impressive and very bold, I have to say.
Thank you.
And I have two more questions for you. Going back to like the experimental element that I mentioned about your band, could that also be indicative? Like, does everybody in the band have like different sources of inspiration as well? Like, do all of you like listen to different stuff, and that's maybe how it influences the sound in a way?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we have some wide tastes from like.
Oh my gosh, our road trip playlist is so eclectic. It's, yeah, I mean, Jesse, our drummer, he's in a cover band with his dad, and he does like, he just loves pop and like classic rock and just all of these things. And then Wes is, like really into BB King, and he's also a huge GNR fan. And then our bassist Cody absolutely like hates GNR, and they argue about that. It's fantastic. Like, and then yeah, Kent and I mean, I have a random, I guess, mix of music taste too.
She's one of the true everything people. Like,
yeah,
people that say listen to everything. She's one of the true everything people.
I do listen to everything.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Yeah, I would only say that our band only really has like two metalheads in it. Like Cody and myself are pretty metalish. Everyone else is really eclectic.
Yeah, for sure.
I've noticed the Browning hat too.
Yeah, love them.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah,
love them. When we play with them those times, it was dope.
Yeah, I interviewed Johnny 2018, and a really nice guy, really intelligent.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
My gosh, those guys are so kind. I love them. Yeah.
But being an everythinger, that's good. I was listening to Patti Smith this morning, and I was listening to Decrepit Birth right afterwards. So
it's amazing. Exactly. That's the way it should be.
And that's how it is. I've noticed in Germany. Like, I remember being in Germany one time, and on the radio they were playing like Sarah McLachlan, and then it was like Children of Bodom, and then it was like, Kesha, and then it was like Guns N' Roses, then it was like Tupac, and then it was like Shinedown, and then it was like Morbid Angel. So
perfection.
Yep. Yep, it's pretty awesome. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, and I've talked extensively about this with a lot of bands, but you guys are from Edmonton, you said, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've said it before, some of the most amazing bands seem to be like, and it seems like every province in Canada has like its own great scene. Like Montreal has some great scenes, Ontario has some great scenes, Vancouver has some great scenes. In Edmonton, you're the first Edmonton-based band, I believe, or is Archspire from Edmonton? Maybe, but
no, they're from Vancouver as well, I think. Okay,
it's such a big country, I gotta say, but like, is there kind of like a scene in Edmonton that you're all affiliated with, or has Juliet Ruin always gone to like outskirts of your hometown in order to maybe spread the name out there a little bit more?
The scene in Edmonton is actually pretty amazing. Like, especially the metal scene. It's huge. Even just being part of the metal scene for almost the past 10 years now, I'm still finding amazing bands. And Edmonton isn't that big. Like, it's a city, but it's not. It's not a huge city.
It's not Vancouver. It's not Montreal. It's not Toronto. It's smaller.
So yeah, definitely having a tight-knit, amazing scene in Edmonton is such a cool thing, especially because it keeps surprising me. It's actually huger than I ever know, because I'm always like, who are these guys now? Like, it's such a cool scene. I miss it so much.
Yeah, you'll find a lot of the regional metal festivals like Loud as Hell or the Armstrong Metal Fest that feature indie bands in Western Canada are always heavily loaded with Edmonton bands. It's just, we have a lot. Yeah. I wouldn't say that we're necessarily better than other scenes, but it seems we're just super concentrated with metal acts here.
Yeah, for sure.
There's just tons. There's a lot.
Yeah. And what's interesting too, and this could just be, Canada being such a big country, but like when people think of Swedish metal, 9 times out of 10 they'll think of like, At the Gates, Arch Enemy, In Flames, Dark Tranquillity. I'm from New York City, so everybody just assumes that every band is a hardcore band. Massachusetts is the metalcore, Seattle is grunge, LA is the glam, and Florida's death metal. But it seems like with Canada, it seems like, okay, so you have Archspire and Beyond Creation, Protect Death. You have Threat Signal, who I think is the most underrated band in history. But you have like a lot of great rock bands. You have like a lot of great black metal bands, death metal bands. It seems to be such a versatile scene.
Totally, I agree.
I think on the ground, it's mostly a death metal scene for the most part. You do have a lot of variation, but
There's a lot of variation,
the biggest representation is in your death metal category. There's lots of those guys. Not to say that there's too much or it's saturated. There's great variations on it, but that's definitely the primary, I'd say.
Yeah. But aside from Canada, can you please, when shows happen again, when this godforsaken pandemic ends, can you please bring Juliet Ruin to the States?
We would love that so much.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of rubes with day jobs, so it's always been a bit of a bitch to try to get a U.S. tour going, but it's got to be something we got to look into for sure.
We had big dreams before this hit. We were starting to really okay, we have a good solid crew, everybody's happy, let's save some money and do some stuff. But then this BS hit us, so hopefully we can make plans right away to start up and come down there.
Yeah, come to Brooklyn or come to New York City. We would love to have you here.
Would love that.
That'd be an experience of a lifetime.
Oh my God,
for us.
I'd love to do that. That'd be amazing.
While venues can't open now, bands are just playing on the street and cops aren't doing shit about it. So come on by.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Is there just anything else with Juliet Ruin that you would like to promote, like in terms of new merch or maybe a live stream performance or anything else with Juliet Ruin you would all like to plug?
Yeah, we've actually just hooked up with a cool a local merch provider. So we have a brand new merch store on our julietruin.com website. So under the shop tab, we have tons of new merch, tons of new Darkwater merch. And we also have our final single from Darkwater coming out later this month.
Awesome. And I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear this EP. It's kick ass. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. Everybody, we are here with Juliet Ruin, Darkwater EP coming out March 26th. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.